Hey everyone, thanks for joining this brown bag session on security. My name is Trent Dreisler. I am a technical account manager for Sumo Logic, and this session is kind of about getting control of your data. So we're going to kind of go over getting a collector set up or a source set up in our core platform and bringing that over into forwarding that data to CSE and kind of getting the records from that all figured out. I've been at Sumo Logic for about 9 months now. Previous work experience was a lot of information access management, as well as some IT and cyber-based work in different government departments. Before we begin, I just want to kind of touch on some recent Cloud SIEM enterprise features that we've recently released, and that is our automation service and our insight trainer. For the automation service, it is a new feature that integrates functionality previously available only with our Cloud SOAR solution, but now it's directly integrated with our Cloud SIEM enterprise solution. The new feature is the automation service and allows you to define and automate smart actions, including enrichments and notifications, enabling the security analysts to address potential security threats faster and more accurately. These can be integrated with the service through automations, which execute playbooks. Playbooks are composed of one or more actions with a workflow that can include parallel actions and logic steps. Actions are defined as part of integrations, and the automation service includes over 350 integrations out of the box, each including several predefined actions. The insight trainer, for many security teams, they spend time every week tuning their SIEM to improve detections and focus SOC analysts' attention on the most serious threats. With the insight trainer, it utilizes machine learning to provide rule tuning recommendations and severity adjustments to significantly reduce the burden of manual tuning. Insight trainer learns rule severity adjustments from your insight history that reduces false positives and optionally no action insights. I'll have just maybe 6 slides to go over, and then I'll walk through, and then we'll have time for a QA session at the end. With getting control of your CSE data starts with forwarding the data from SIP to CSE. Every time there's a new data source you want to ingest in Cloud SIEM CSE, a Sumo Logic admin needs to enable the data forwarding. Sumo Logic offers centralized security monitoring capabilities, allowing organizations to address and correlate logs from various sources by forwarding data to our Cloud SIEM platform. Organizations can have a unified view of their security events and insights using our Cloud SIEM product. The CSE Cloud SIEM platform provides advanced threat detection capabilities, including real-time analysis, correlation rules, machine learning, and anomaly detection algorithms. Forwarding data from Sumo Logic to Cloud SIEM can enhance the threat detection capabilities and help identify potential security incidents more efficiently. For data from Sumo Logic to Cloud SIEM, you first request backend configuration. This is one-time setup for each Sumo Logic organization, often your SumoLogic account rep or someone in your account team will complete this process for you. Next, you enable data forwarding for each data source. You can do this by adding the underscore SIM forward equals true field when you set up a new collector. For cloud data sources, you can also toggle the SIM processing checkbox. You'll need to enable data forwarding each time you add a new data source into SumoLogic, update the partitions, or make other changes to the data ingestion process. For cloud data sources, like an HTTPS source, you would see a checkbox in the configuration page to allow SIM processing after SIM forward field or the SIM processing checkbox is added to the type of collector. Any new data will now be sent to Cloud SIEM, but any historical data will not be sent. So when you decide to take this source and enable it to be forwarded to CSE, from that moment, that data will be forwarded. Anything historical will not be sent. Finally, you'll configure a log and ingest mapping. This process is usually automatic, but must be completed for certain types of custom source data sources. The exact details will vary depending on the data you're working with. It is always a good idea to check the SumoLogic documentation for specific instructions. After you forward data from SumoLogic to Cloud SIEM, your log messages must go through a little processing first. Cloud SIEM processes messages into records. Each record contains information from a message, which is parsed into key value pairs, mapped into Cloud SIEM schema, and enriched with other data. The process is usually automatic, but must be completed for certain types of custom data sources. If you do not need to configure logs to ingest mappings, there are certain details you need to know about your data, like whether it's structured or unstructured, whether it's a syslog header, or what data type it is, such as JSON or XML. You'll also need to know the vendor, such as Windows event logs, Palo Alto fire logs, and AWS GuardDuty logs. Once you know these details, you can consult SumoLogic's documentation for specific help for configuring your data pipeline. I'm not going to go over everything in this slide because there's a lot, but I believe these will be shared out afterwards for you to review again. Just things to kind of lightly touch on is CC raw logs and CC insight retention is customer configurable. Insights and signals that are attached to insights are retained in CC indefinitely. Signals that are not attached to insights are retained in CSE. And at the bottom, you see that part with for 90 days, if suppressed, as of October last year, this will be changed to 30 days and a full year for if unsuppressed. Again, quite a lot to see in this one as well. Just like touch on it is going over the integration guide section of this help site provides specific collection and integration recommendations for many common products and services. If you don't see an ingestion guide of your data, check to see if there is a cloud to cloud, also known as a C2C connector. Most C2C connectors have a forward to SIEM option in the configuration user interface. If a C2C connector lacks that option, you can achieve the same effect by assigning a field name of _SIEM forward and set that to true to the connector. If there isn't a Cloud connector for your data source, the next best option is to use a Sumo logic source running on a installed collector or hosted collector, depending on the data source, and a Sumo logic parser if we have one of the data sources. I'll demonstrate some of this in the walkthrough. All right, just gotta get the zoom controls out of the way. Okay, from within the Sumo logic user interface, to forward data from our core platform or a source that we set up, best way to start is starting fresh. Or if you have one already pre-configured, you would just skip to the where you enable the CSE option and then move from there. But so in here we'll just find a collector, and for this collector I'm going to use the CSE demo and add a source. For this we'll do an HTTP source, and you give it a name. I already kind of created one and named it, but I'm going to name mine BB test for brown bag test. And here's the options that you have depending on the configuration. You can set it to forward to SIEM, and it already kind of sets up the processing and everything for you. Or you can add the keyword where you have SIEM forward, and the value would be true. So those are the two options for sending things to the CSE. For this one, I'm just going to use the forward to SIEM, and I would hit save, but I already did this earlier. And my collector, my source is here. At that point, it would generate a URL, and the URL would pop up in a window just like this. You copy it, and then you can set it up by opening up a terminal if you're on Mac, command prompt if you're on Windows, typing in the given command. We use a curl command for setting these up, and you kind of have the threat name. I name mine brown bag, and the URL that we use for setting these collectors up. And I believe I'm missing some equal signs. That's kind of it. It just shows you that it's completed by giving a new line. At that point, we should have data streaming in from this source to Sumo logic. This is the source here. And from here, we would go into our Cloud SIEM. Let me back out of all of this, get you somewhere used to it. And from our Cloud SIEM, we're not quite ready to bring in everything yet. The data is coming in to the core platform, but it's not quite being mapped correctly on the CSE side. So we can kind of get records and things to work for us. So what we've got to do now is set up the log and ingest mapping. And do that by going up here to the configurations and clicking the Sumo logic. And here we have Sumo logic ingest mappings. You would create one. And you would enter the source category. For my source category, it was BB test. Sorry, there. And for the format, mine would be a JSON format. And for vendor, you can enter the vendor and product name using the actual vendor and product name. It's best to keep it unique for just separating things out. So I'll just kind of keep it as for the event ID. I'll just give it a select all. And I'll enable it. At that point, after you've kind of made sure everything's correct, everything's what you would expect, you can go ahead and create. Then there's already one created, so I will hit cancel on this one. And here's mine. After you set up your ingest mapping, the next step is to set up your log mapping. So the same, you stay within the CSC platform. You go back up to the configuration icon, and you would click on the log mappings. From here, again, you'd click create. And for mine, I'm going to do a structure mapping because it's going to be a JSON. And sorry, for the vendor, I'll type in the vendor I had earlier. And the product, same thing. I'll create those for that. For the format, I'll select JSON again. And for the matching the event ID for regex, I'm going to do on everything as well, which is a dot asterisk this time. Then I'm going to leave the record of type blank for now, and under the create record, sorry, under the fields part, I would enter the fields from the JSON logs. So for this, I would I'm going to look for the source IP. Let's do IP. I'm going to do device IP. Go and add that field. Just like that. And I'll do threat name as well, since I did have that there. And add that as well. And scroll back up to create a record. So off of these fields that we chose, the data coming in from core platform will be processed through these mappings, looking for these fields. And when the fields are mapped correctly, we'll then create a record. For this one, I'll just do a regular audit record. And the vendor is going to match the vendor type, and the product is also going to match the product type. From there, you hit submit. Oh, I didn't name it. So the very first step, name it. For this, I'll name it BB test, because that's the theme of this one. And hit submit. At that point, if the source was sending data in frequently, we would be able to get records off of it. But I don't think we'll have enough data coming in to see the data for it. Good way to test to see if you do have any data coming in. You can sort it by data source category. Contains the phrase starting with. Mine starts with BB. At the moment, I have one record. So that is how you get your data from the core platform, setting up a source, getting things to come in from core, and forwarding your data into the CSE platform. I don't see the chat, unfortunately, but do we have any questions about this so far?
Feel free to unmute if you have questions. Go ahead and ask. There's nothing on chat right now, Trent.
Okay.
Hey,
Didn't notice on the attendee list there were some of our CSE engineers and such. If they have anything to add, please feel free.
hey Trent, this is Karthik. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Hey, in the mapping that you were showing on the CSE side, is there an option to import the parser for the fields? Let's say if we wanted to import fields from the parser into the metadata's log mapping to use all the fields available in that? Is that something that allows us?
Ooh. I'm not sure about all the encompassing of that. Lucas, would you know if that is something that we could do?
So the parser is going to get your key value pairs out, right? And they're going to come in a JSON format. So any field that you have incoming, you can map. There's no way to import that, but you can set up a key value or key pair mapping based on whatever fields you see in the records. And this gives you an option to normalize it to our schema fields. So you have a limited selection of all the fields that CSE normalizes, and you can assign those fields that came in your record to those in your log mapping.
Gotcha.
Does that help?
Yeah, so the reason why I ask is some of the log sources in our company that we've used have different key value pairs in that parser, which do not have a relating field matching
Yes.
field in the mapper. So we often go by the grok ones, right? And the groks are getting deprecated soon, or so we were trying to see how better to use this to not also use normalization, but also be able to translate all the event fields that we see that will be useful for.
Yeah, so the log mapping will allow you to assign it to the fields that we offer in our schema, right? Which is a set list of fields. But on top of that, all of the records will have a section called extracted fields, and you'll see all of the other fields that were matched key values in that. So yes, I have run into that where there's not a corresponding field, such as, let's say, email subject, for example, right? It's not a field in our schema, but that field does come in like exchange logs or DLP logs, for example. You would then just use this as an extracted field, which will automatically be brought into CSE and through the parser, and then in your rule syntax or rule tuning syntax, you can use fields dot whatever field name to include that in a rule. So any field that comes in, either it's part of the schema or not, you are able to use that in your rule syntax.
Got it. Thank you.
Does anyone else have any other questions? I don't see anything else in the QA.
No, Trent, that looks like it's all. So we can go ahead and end the session. Thank you all for attending. We will get the slides and the recording to you after the session ends. Thank you all.